January 25th meeting of the St. Bernard Village Council will please come to order. We invite you to stand for the prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Our Father, who art in heaven, as a body we congregate in this council chambers for the betterment of our fellow citizens. Lead us that we may do all things well. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Present.
Mr. Stuchel?
Present.
Mr. Edwards?
Present.
Ms. Hausfeld? Here. Mr. Schildmeyer?
Present.
Mr. Culbertson?
Present.
And Mr. Estep.
Present.
Let the record show that all 7 members are present, no members are absent. Members of council, what is your pleasure on the reading of the minutes of the last meeting? Do I have a motion from anyone to dispense with the reading of the last minutes?
Mr.
Let's make
President.
this easy. Mr. Edwards.
I make a motion, we dispense of the readings of the minutes
I'll
of the
second.
last meeting.
A motion by Mr. Edwards, second by Mr. Estep to dispense with the reading of the last minutes. Are there any remarks? No remarks. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Members of council, are there any errors or corrections to the minutes as submitted? If not, the minutes will stand as submitted. Move to reports of administrative officials. Mayor Stuchel.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to start by congratulating 2 very dedicated employees on their retirement from the village. Troy Myrick has served the citizens as a captain in the St. Bernard Fire Department and has dedicated 33 years to the village. Ed Kallmeyer has served the citizens as electrician and service department foreman, both for 25 years. Both gentlemen will be missed, and their contributions to the village are greatly appreciated, and we wish you the very best in the next chapter of your lives. I would also like to thank the chairpersons from the various committees from the City Council who have held public meetings thus far. They have all been productive, and I appreciate the efforts that have been made. The CIC is currently accepting bids for mowing for 2024. The RFPs are available at City Hall in the clerk's office. Bids must be submitted by 5 p.m. on Monday, February 26th. Just to give everyone a heads up so that you can mark your calendars for one of this summer's great events that is being organized by our awesome recreation department. Fireworks will be back for 2024. Our 4th of July celebration in the village will be held on Saturday, July 6th at Vine Street Park, and will end with a fireworks show that will be to scale for the area. More details on the events for that day will be announced, but there will be events for the entire family that will involve a concert, pickleball, cornhole, inflatables, great food, and having fun, a fun day with your fellow St. Bernardians. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Auditor, Ms. Brickway.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the agenda tonight is Resolution 1, Ordinance 1, and Ordinance 2. Resolution 1, 2024, this is a yearly resolution we do, and this is to purchase meals and refreshments for village employees and other persons as serving a public purpose. For those that are new, this is basically just a formality that we have to pass each year saying we will use tax dollars to purchase meals or refreshments. An example would be Boy Scout night, or if we have treats, the oranges and cookies and the donuts and everything we bring out at the holiday celebrations, all that is what this is about. But by law, you have to pass this every year saying you're gonna do it. Ordinance number 1, 2024, this is the part-time or part-time pay ordinance, and what we are changing on this is for the first-year pool attendants, craft assistant, swim lesson assistants, and any fitness center employees hired after January 1st of 2005, the starting pay will be $10.45. This is the new Ohio State minimum wage. And then the last ordinance, Ordinance 2, 2024, this is transferring $2,100,000 from general fund transfer out, with $100,000 going into the swimming pool cash account, $400,000 going into the master plan cash account, $200,000 going into capital improvements cash account, $600,000 going into general bond retirement cash account, $200,000 going into the employee accumulated cash account, and $600,000 going into the employee health plan cash account. It also includes an additional appropriation, which we discussed at the Committee of the Whole, for an employee accumulated sick for $60,000. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Director of Law, Ms. Van Valkenburg.
Thank you. Actually, I have a couple of things I'd like to have put on, on the agenda for the Committee of the Whole for next month. We had some discussion with it at the Committee of the Whole earlier this month, and Mr. Paul also brought it up. We've had an ordinance authorizing a solid waste collection fee for residential accounts, so I'd like to have that put on the agenda for Committee of the Whole so we can discuss that. Also, there was a change late last year to ORC 73121, and we need to make some changes to how we give publication of our ordinance, of our resolutions, our notices, those kinds of things. So I would also like to have that issue put on the agenda for next month. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer, Mr. Ungeroop.
I have no report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. Safety and Service Director, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is Troy Myrick's last working day for the fire department. Congratulations, Troy, on completing your career here in the village. Tomorrow will be Ed Kallmeyer's last working day for the service department. Congratulations, Ed, on completing your career here in the village. Congratulations to Donald Mitty Mittendorf for being promoted to the foreman's position of the St. Bernard Service Department. Don will be a benefit for us due to the knowledge and experience he has attained over the years. Looking forward to sharing ideas and answers with him. We had the opportunity to train the newbies in salt spreading. Once again, Service Department, thanks for the cleared streets. Sometimes when you don't see the men on the Service Department, they are on the outskirts of our village. Cannot thank you enough for cleaning the Prosser and Murray Road overpass in St. Bernard. And to my community, it's another year. Some call it new beginnings. Maybe you're one of the lucky ones where you feel you are doing just fine. Not changing a thing, nothing broke, so don't fix it. When you feel like this, you should quiet your mind and reflect on how you came to be at peace with yourself. Strengthen that acceptance and stay charged just in case you are called upon to jumpstart a fellow traveler. For we do not know who or what will be placed in our path along our journey. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Tax Administrator, Ms. Helms.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a recap of the report I read at the Committee of the Whole. December 2023 end-of-month receipts, tax collection for December of 2023 was $1,883,162. December 2023 is down 21.3% from December of 2020. Delinquent tax collected with capital recovery was $765. Delinquent tax collected with the Ohio Attorney General's Office was $4,544. Year-end 2023 tax collections were $11,276,718. The Ohio State, just a few reminders, the Ohio State tax list for 2022 was processed, providing an additional 183 residents to our tax database. Those individuals received a letter a few weeks ago for the filing of their 2022 tax return. 1099-G forms were issued and mailed earlier this month. We are required by federal law to report any carry-forward tax payments and refunds that were issued in 2023. 2023 fourth quarter estimated payments are due by 1/31/2024. The e-file site will be up and running in early February for the 2023 tax filing season. Our company, MITS, that provides our software, thinks that it might be February 1st will be the day that you can start using it. The PDF paper version of the 2023 tax form is currently available on the tax webpage. 2023 reconciliations are currently being processed. And then finally, assessments are currently being conducted on all those who did not respond to the November letter that was mailed regarding delinquent 2022 tax returns. If you receive this letter, do not hesitate. You have 60 days to respond if you disagree and would like to petition for a reassessment. After 60 days, the assessment becomes final. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Move to reports of standing committees. Finance, Mr. Morton.
The Finance Committee held our first meeting of the year last week and scheduled monthly standing meetings for the Wednesdays after the Committee of the Whole meetings. We discussed our tax abatement and TIF district history, how to make our budget more quickly accessible online, and the ordinances and resolution on the table tonight. The outcomes of the meeting included an agreement to proactively include our economic development partner, Alloy Development, in Finance Committee and Council meetings when discussing any development tax incentives to ensure the experts are in the room. We also agreed to submit our budget details to the State of Ohio's reporting tool, Open Checkbook, so residents can see the details of our budget and how it exemplifies a great future for our village. In regards to Ordinance 1 and Resolution 1, the Finance Committee unanimously agreed to endorse their passage tonight because of their necessity to reach compliance with new Ohio law and common procedural nature, respectively. The final version of Ordinance 2 had not been yet prepared by our meeting, so I did meet with the auditor separately to discuss. I endorse its passage as it is a necessity to pay out a retiring employee. As it stands, the next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 14th in Centennial Hall, located in the lower level of City Hall. Separately, the next Community Connect will be held at Bigby Coffee on February 1st from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. And as always, all are welcome and encouraged to attend. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Service, Mr. Stuchel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the waste collection fees for the month of November 2023. $26,837.40 was remitted to the village. For the month of December 2023, the Service Department had 20 dump trucks placed at residents, 15 dumpsters placed at residents, 101 special pickups at residents, 148.77 tons of garbage taken to the landfill, 1 30-yard waste dumpsters collected, 6 30-yard waste dumpsters collected, 37.89 tons of recycling material collected, and 8,220 pounds of scrap metal collected. Additionally, 64 tons of salt was spread on roads, sidewalks, and other village properties on January 19th. I also have the 2023 year-end totals for garbage and recycling. 68 30-yard dumpsters totaling 2,040 yards, 12 30-yard waste dumpsters totaling 360 yards, 311.6 tons of recycling material was collected, 455 trips were made by our garbage trucks to Rumpke landfill, totaling 1,959.17 tons of garbage taken to the landfill, which cost the village $64,652.61 at $33 per ton. Last week on January 16th, the Service Committee met for its first meeting of the year. During the meeting, the committee discussed establishing committee responsibilities beyond tracking and producing garbage, recycling, and waste reports, review of potential grants to pursue that could benefit the Service Department, and began early stage planning of future community events such as a Community Shred Day and Clean Up St. Bernard Day, with more information to come out at a later date. Lastly, I'd also like to congratulate Eddie Kalmeyer on his retirement from the Service Department and thank him for his hard work and dedication to our community. He leaves some big shoes to fill for his successor, Donnie Middendorf, who I know will continue to uphold the same level of commitment and excellence. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Public improvements, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week on the 17th of January, we also had a Public Improvement Committee meeting. We discussed the shopping center progress, CIC's relationship to council, and at the end, an open discussion, we discussed what we would take up for the future committee meetings, and when we did have the projects we would do, or where our insight, or basically, I don't know the word I want to use, but we would have another meeting if council or the administration would give us a project to do. But other than that, just to have committees when it's necessary. And other than that, a general summary of the meeting is available for anyone interested. And this concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Safety, Ms. Hausfeld.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight I have the Police Department report. For the month of December, the Police Department had 706 calls for service, resulting in 478 contacts. There were an additional 373 other services, details that were not necessarily called in by the public. These calls for service included 39 total criminal offenses, resulting in 78 criminal arrests, 51 traffic citations, and 81 traffic warnings. They responded to 18 accidents as well. Under news and notes, the additional cameras to improve safety and security are installed and operational. They have already been very beneficial in obtaining valuable information to aid in the apprehension of criminals and suspects. In an effort to alleviate some of the traffic headaches associated with the increased traffic around the school, a new traffic pattern has been established during the hours of dismissal. It seems to have helped immensely, and the possibility exits that a new permanent traffic pattern change can be forthcoming. Residents in the area will be given plenty of notice before any sweeping changes are implemented. Also, Officer Mac Rector had resigned from the department, and a hiring process has begun to find a replacement. We wish him well in his future endeavors and thank him for the service to the village. I, too, want to thank Troy Myrick and Ed Kohlmeyer and wish them all a happy retirement, and also to congratulate Donnie Mittendorf on his new position at the Service Department. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Laws, contracts, and claims, Mr. Schultmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will be holding the first of the year Laws, Contracts, and Claims meeting on February 13th at 7 o'clock in council chambers. On the agenda that night will be short and long-term rental program, front yard, garden, golf cart community, at least the legal implications of St. Bernard possibly becoming a golf cart community, and the council attendance policy. Again, the date will be February 13th here in council chambers at 7 o'clock. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Marketing, Mr. Culbertson.
Thanks, Mr. President. Just a reminder that the 2024 sports signups will be in the rec office on Saturday, January 27th and Saturday, February 3rd, with the hours of 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. You are also welcome to sign up at City Hall Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Also, do not forget that the village is now accepting applications for summer employment. The deadline to submit an application is Monday, February 12th. The Marketing Committee met on Tuesday, January 16th to discuss the village newsletter and the welcome packet for new residents. I would like to thank the committee, along with Mayor Stuchel, Chris Sauer, Nicole Klongel, and Greg Lair, for their participation in this meeting. Several great ideas were discussed to improve both the newsletter and the welcome packet. Look for changes to take place over the next few months. Lastly, echo up here, thanks to Troy Myrick and Ed Kohlmeyer on the retirements, and thanks for their service to our village. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Business and Industry, Mr. Estep.
Thank you, Mr. Asbach. First of all, I'd like to recognize Tommy Fox in the audience. He comes to a lot of the meetings and is very happy to be here in St. Bernard. And thanks for going to the game with us last week, Thomas. Our Business and Industry group met last Wednesday. The members present were John Estep, Jeff Edwards, and Ray Culbertson. I wanted to get a list of the businesses, which I did from Heidi Culbertson. I made a copy of the minutes, and they're on file with Heidi. I'd like to invite a business of the month and connect with them and have them come to the council meetings and maybe spend 10 minutes to share a little bit about their business, and so the people who live here can learn a little bit more about it. Connor Morton had a good point. He says we need to get a welcome packet for new residents. I appreciate that suggestion. Mayor Stuchel was there, and he's doing a door-to-door drop with numbers of the people who live here for things like garbage pickup, days when the recycle goes out, numbers for maybe a special pickup, and other, I guess, churches, schools, whatever we have. I also attended a 2-hour meeting at Roger Bacon this week with Steve Shad and Brandon Spaeth, and took a tour of the building. I was very impressed with Roger Bacon and the things they do down there. I'd also like to thank Troy and Ed for all their service, and congratulations to Donnie. That's all I have.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole, Ms. Stegman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Minutes were submitted on Tuesday, the 23rd, and I have no communications.
All right. At this time, if you could give the first reading of Resolution Number 1, 2024.
Resolution number 1, 2024, authorizing the use of village funds to purchase meals or refreshment for village employees or other persons as serving as public person and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of Resolution Number 1, 2024. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mr. Schultmeyer.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of resolution unless, for resolution number 1.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Schultmeyer, second by Mr. Estep to suspend with the second and third reading of Resolution Number 1, 2024. Are there any remarks?
Just have one comment, Mr. President.
Mr.
I noticed in
Edwards.
section 2, it says 2023. Is that, okay.
Any other remarks? I have a motion to amend Resolution number 1, 2024.
Mr. President,
Mr. Morton.
I motion to amend Section 2 of Resolution number 1, 2024 to read that this resolution is effective from date of enactment forward through 2024 and should be read again.
Have a second?
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Morton, second by Mr. Estep, to amend Section 2 to read 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Clerk, will you call the roll on suspension?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Mr. Schultmeyer.
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 1.
I'll
Resolution
second.
number 1, sorry, as amended.
Motion by Mr. Schultmeyer, seconded by Mr. Estep to adopt resolution number 1, 2024 as amended. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Resolution number 1, 2024 as amended is adopted as read.
Mr. President,
Ms. Brickwick.
before you have the first reading, there's a typo in the other one, in the last paragraph where Caroline Stegman, Clerk of Council, if you can just change that to ordinance number 1, 2024, then you won't need to amend it.
On which one, Peggy?
A number 1 at the very end of it.
Neither one of us,
We don't have
neither
back
one of us
sides.
have a back. We have ordinance 1, we don't have the back. Sit tight.
It's weird that some have and some don't, I don't know. And you have a back, that's weird. Change the 24 at the end of the paragraph and ordinance number 1, 2024.
I see it, yep.
Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 1, 2024?
Ordinance number 1, 2024, fixing the compensation of those part-time and certain appointed employees of the Village of St. Bernard and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 1, 2024. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mr. Schultmeyer.
make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 1, 2024.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Schultmeyer, second by Mr. Estep to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 1, 2024. Are there any remarks? If not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council on ordinance number 1, 2024? Please state your name and address for the record.
Tom Rawson, 30 Clay Street. Why wasn't the audience on the first one that you passed invited to come up?
Resolutions do not require audience participation. It's just the ordinances that call for the audience to be heard from.
All right. I didn't know that. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry. Anybody else in the audience wish to address council on ordinance 1? If not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Mr. Morton.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1, 2024.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Morton, seconded by Mr. Estep to adopt ordinance number 1, 2024. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 1, 2024 is adopted as read. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 2, 2024?
Ordinance number 2, 2024, authorizing and directing the auditor to transfer funds and provide additional appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 2, 2024. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mr. Schomeyer?
make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 2, 2024.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Mr. Schomeyer, seconded by Ms. Hausfeld to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 2, 2024. Are there any remarks? If not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council on ordinance 2, 2024? If not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Mr. Morton?
motion we adopt ordinance number 2, 2024.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Morton, seconded by Mr. Culbertson to adopt ordinance number 2, 2024. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Aye.
Mr. Stuchel?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Schildmeyer? Mr. Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Estep?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 2, 2024 is adopted as read. This time, does anyone on council have anything under old business? Does anyone on council have anything under new business? Not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council this evening? Please state your name and address for the record.
Tom Ralston, 30 Clay. I've heard a few of the committee people say that you can get their summary or the minutes of their meeting. Is that for all the different committee members? And I don't know, it seems like it wasn't spaced out before, that there was multiple meetings on one night and stuff. So does every committee have a summary and stuff that's open to the public? And how do we get it? Is it online?
Mr. President,
Mr. Culbertson.
mine will be submitted to the clerk. I believe likewise for the other council members, so if you want to reach out to Heidi, she'll provide you with a copy of the minutes.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please state your name and address for the record.
Todd Fox, 309 Jackson. Happened and taking vibes.
What happened at Chicken Scratch?
Yes.
Mr. President,
Mr.
Tom,
Schomeyer?
are you just asking why they're not open right now?
Yes.
I think Mr. Estep said they were closed on Thursdays.
No, it was, always,
Closed early?
yes.
Not sure, Tom.
Sounds like somebody's going to look into it back here.
Did you hear that, Tom? They're closed on Thursdays and Sundays.
Huh. mm, yeah,
Nothing else?
Is that it?
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Anyone else in the audience? All right. If not, I show the next committee of the whole for Thursday, February 8th at 7 p.m. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Mr. Culbertson.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Seconded.
Motion by Mr. Culbertson, second by Mr. Morton to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.